everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Today I want to talk about a book series that I have a lot of feelings about and that I think with a heavy heart I have decided not to continue. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books, and recently I've made a decision that is going to cut down a very tiny proportion of those books, admittedly. I don't know if this ever happens to you, but I feel like lately I've been thinking a lot more about how tastes change and evolve over time, and reading is no exception to that really. Some books and book series that I really enjoyed when I was younger, I am now finding that I don't enjoy as much. And I just wanted to say that I think that that is fine, and I wanted to talk a bit about a series that I've come to the conclusion I won't be carrying on with. And the best thing about this decision is that it is helping me to unhaul some books. We'll come to that in a minute though. So first of all, the book series I want to talk to you about today, and this won't all be a negative video, there are a lot of positives about this series. I would still highly recommend the parts of it that I have read, and that may sound weird for a series I'm no longer continuing with, but I will go into the reasons why this series is being DNF'd for me, why I'm unhauling it, and what went wrong for me with this book series. But it doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of people out there who don't like this series. In fact, I know it is a very popular series, a very popular author, and a very prolific author. So I wanted to talk about it. The series is Patricia Cornwell's Scarpetta series, and I will be sad to see this go. This is a book series that I have enjoyed, certainly in the past. So a bit of background first of all on the Patricia Cornwell series and on my relationship with it. So this is a series of books I really enjoyed initially. Scarpetta is a medical examiner, and I came to this series of books through having read other later series of books by different authors that made me feel that this series was a really good fit for me. So we're talking quite some time ago. I think my first dive into this series was back in 2008, so it's a long time ago. And the books that brought me to this book series were Tess Gerritsen's Rizzoli and Isles series, which I got into because I really liked the detective Rizzoli, but that series does have a forensic examiner as well, Maura Isles. Another series I really love and will one day make a video about is the Grant County series by Karin Slaughter. All of these books, I would say, definite massive trigger warnings for like crime, grisly, gory, gross stuff. I'm not easily put off a book by gore or squeamishness, so yeah, if you are starting these series, they are all quite grisly. But anyway, not talking about those series today. But in the Grant County series by Karin Slaughter, there's a brilliant medical examiner type character called Sarah Linton, and I really liked her as a character. She was probably the first sort of character with that profession that I really enjoyed reading. And from those two series of books came my interest in reading Patricia Cornwell, who I had heard has this series in which the main character, Scarpetta, is a medical examiner. Now there are multiple other characters in the Scarpetta series, but one of the things I really liked, particularly about these early books, these first 5, which I did love, what I particularly liked about it was all in first person. I also DNF'd right at the beginning of my booktube time, the very first month I think it was. I also DNF'd the Kathy Reichs series, which is quite similar in vibes to this, but I didn't like the main character, Temperance Brennan. Yeah, I never got on with that series very well. This series I did get on with. One of the things I definitely really liked about the books was Scarpetta herself and following her in first person. I didn't always like the surrounding characters, so to make this video today I decided to look back on some of my comments in my book journals, in my books of books about these books. So I had to go back to my very first book journal, which was from 2007 onwards, And the very first book, Postmortem by Patricia Cornwall, I read in December 2008, and I thought it was excellent. I've written that it was a very gripping read and a clear predecessor to other books that I've loved. I think I was talking about, within that genre, the Tess Gerritsens and the Karen Slaughters. I thought initially on that first book, Postmortem, that the characters were excellent, really well written, and I really liked the first person narrative. But I didn't like, and I was already writing this in my disliked section in my book journal, so I'll show you. I used to give it a rating, write a little bit about it, write a bit about the plot, and then I used to write something I liked and something I disliked. I disliked Kay's niece Lucy, and Lucy does become a massive character in this series, so I think not liking her in the first book may have not helped with this series. So generally I was giving these books sort of a 7 out of 10, which was a pretty good rating from me. It meant I liked the book. I really liked book 2, Body of Evidence. I read it immediately after finishing Postmortem. I read a lot more of these in early 2009. I read the rest of this book set, I think, in maybe the January. As you can imagine, because this was a very long time ago, I don't have that good a recollection of the book, so I'm glad for the book journaling. I then didn't pick up another one until the August. I did then read Unnatural Exposure and Point of Origin back to back in 2010. Was still really enjoying them. By the time we reach Unnatural Exposure, there was another character I had a real problem with called Benton Wesley, who I just found so annoying. And by this point in the book journal, even though I'm still rating them 7 out of 10, I had started to find that Scarpetta moaned too much. But I do remember both of these being strong books. I do remember really liking Point of Origin, which I gave a 7.5 to. And yeah, there's a major event in this book which helped me somewhat with my liking of the series, but would come back to stop my liking of the series later on. So coming on to the ones I've read really recently. I read The Last Precinct last year. I can't remember which month I wrapped this up, but if you go back to that wrap up, which I'll link in the description down below if I can find it. I didn't love this one, and this one is very much linked to the one I've attempted to read in the month of June, which was Blowfly. There is a major change to this series between these two, and I do enjoy Patricia Cornwall's writing. Her writing was still great in this one. The big major change in Blowfly is that Patricia Cornwall has stopped writing in first person from Kay's perspective. I think that was needed for this series, because this one is just, by this point, Kay Scarpetta is definitely a bit too moany for my liking. I have heard that this is a turning point in the series, that they continue to be in third person after this. I wasn't bothered about the change to third person. What bothered me quite a lot was that there were so many different characters that we're following in this one. The plot line was not interesting me at all. I didn't like really any of the characters we were following, and not only that, but we didn't actually seem to be following Scarpetta at all. I think it will evolve and we will end up following her, but I just couldn't bring myself to care about any of the characters anymore. And I did look into some reviews on Goodreads to see if people said like, this starts off really slowly but it gets brilliant, and they didn't. A lot of fans of the series actually didn't like this one. It did make me think, should I just DNF this one and go on to the next book? But let's talk about the reasons for DNFing the whole series and for deciding to do a major unhaul. The first one I've already mentioned. I feel like my taste has changed. I no longer enjoy this particular series as much as I did. It's reached a point where I don't think I like any of the characters, and that is a problem for me. I do need a character that I can support or follow or enjoy in some way. Even if they're a character you love to hate, you can love to hate them, but I just don't feel any strong feelings for anyone in this at this point, even though I've been following them for like 12 books. I think this was the 12th. I've come to realise I should give my time to the series that I have enjoyed and I'm still enjoying, rather than ones that I feel obliged to continue because I've bought some more books in the series. The fourth reason is I really don't think I can finish Blowfly. There's a major event. I'm not going to include spoilers in this video, but if you have read this series, you'll know what I'm talking about. There is a major event in an earlier book, in Point of Origin, which has basically been completely overturned in Blowfly. Basically, we've been told that everything in the last sort of 3 books or so has been complete lies to the main character. So I don't like that. I think that's a really bad decision. I'm not interested in where that storyline goes at all, because I think that major events shouldn't just easily be overturned. I don't think it's good. It's not a thing that I like to read. So that's kind of irritated me to the point of no return really with this one. My final reason for deciding that I will definitely both DNF this and DNF the series and unhaul all of the books, including the ones I've read, is that if I unhaul all of the books, including the ones I've read, these were taking up one entire section of this bookshelf, all of these, and that was with them stacked. So this will clear up a whole section of bookshelf, and I do badly need somewhere for the books to go when they come off my TBR shelves and go onto my red shelves. I am out of room. There are some shelves now that are double stacked with books that I have read. I just think that shelf can be put to much better use, which sounds like a silly reason, but if I ever wanted to return to this series, which at the moment doesn't seem at all likely, but I do know we change our minds sometimes, I don't think I'll go back to Blowfly, because from what I've read about it from fans of the series and people who are not particularly fans of the series, both, I don't think that this book will improve for me, and I think that there are also animal cruelty issues in this one that I will really not like. There are very few things that stop me from enjoying a book, even really gross things, but the kind of animal cruelty that I've heard happens in this is just so not for me. So I won't be going back to Blowfly. If I did decide to go back to the series, to reread any of the early books or to read any of the books following on from Blowfly, I would get them from the library, because these are not books that are ever for me going to be probably 5-star. Probably most of these wouldn't even make a 4-star. I think probably the ones that I have already read, especially that early box set, I really enjoyed those. They were probably 4-star books, but I don't feel like I've got enough time in my reading life for 3-star books and below, and therefore I don't want to continue the series. Yeah, if I ever get a desire to return to it, I'll return to it via the library. I quite often see these books in charity shops as well, and that is how I ended up having 5 of these that I have not yet read that are going to be unhauled. That's Trace, Predator, Book of the Dead, Scarpetta and the Scarpetta Factor. They will all be leaving the giant bookshelf TBR, and that's a relief too. I will also be moving on all the other 12 books so far, although I seem to only be able to find 11, which is a bit weird. So yeah, these will all be... So I'm no longer going to be reading the Scarpetta series of books. Have you read this series of books? Did you enjoy them? Was Blowfly a low point? Have I given up too soon? Let me know all of those things in the comments down below if you have read this series. And I would love to know from you, do you have any experience of a similar thing? So owning like the next few books in a series and deciding it's no longer for you. Really interested to hear any of your comments about series that you once really liked and then stopped liking for whatever reasons. I find this a very interesting topic. I find it very difficult to part with books. I am definitely a book hoarder, so really pleased that I'm going to have an empty section on my bookshelf and I can have a little bit of a rearrange. I'm not saying I will never read another Patricia Cornwell book, because I might, but for now I'm DNFing this series and I feel good about it. So yeah, as I said, do chat to me in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will hope very much to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.